With so many students about to graduate from Nurse Practitioner School, there are certain things that I wish I would have known prior to graduating just so I'm one step ahead of everyone else. And luckily, I'm here for you guys. And in this video, I'm going to be going over 5 things that I wish they would have taught me in school so I can be better prepared moving forward. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the channel, LifeofaPsychNP. If you are new to this channel, let me formally introduce myself. I'm Darty. I'm a board-certified psychiatric nurse practitioner, and in this channel, I go over several different subjects to educate the public about mental health, ways to improve your lifestyle, topics related to nursing, nurse practitioners, and specifically psychiatric nurse practitioners like myself. So if you are interested in any of these topics, feel free to subscribe. Make sure you like this video and follow me on Instagram at LifeofaPsychNP. So, you're probably watching this video because you're interested in finding out what are the things that I wish I would have known prior to graduating as a Psych NP or even Nurse Practitioner School. You can apply this to Psych nurse practitioners or any other specialty as a nurse practitioner, but I figured I'd tell you now just so you're somewhat prepared, especially as you graduate, because it's not like being a nurse where you graduate and you get a job right away. There's certain things that you need to know and be prepared for just in case, because realistically speaking, there are many jobs out there where you can't just start right away, and there's a huge gap between graduating and when you actually can get a job or when you can even pass boards. But it's something I definitely wanted to speak about. And first things first, if you are watching this video because you're about to graduate, congratulations. You're doing a great job, and continue the hard work. You're almost there, and continue working hard because you're about to hit the real world and you need to learn more. You can only learn so much during school, but you're about to learn even more, and it's going to be exciting times. Well, let's get this video started. So the very first thing that they didn't tell you in nursing school that I wish I would have known is how long credentialing takes. And I have so many different students from so many different universities, and I always ask them like, oh, what are your next plans? Are you excited? Are you looking for jobs? Blah, blah, blah. And then I tell them about the credentialing process, and they're like, what do you mean about the credentialing process? And a lot of the times they don't know exactly how long it takes. And a lot of the times people think that, oh, they can just get board certified, get licensed, and boom, they're about to get into a new job. And sometimes that's the case, depending on where you're working. But a lot of the times you have to go through that credentialing process. And typically speaking, as a new grad, you're not going to be credentialed with other companies already, so it's going to take the longest amount of time. So typically speaking, depending if you're working under physician or if you're working for yourself, obviously in independent states you're allowed to work for yourself, but other states it does take a lot longer, especially if you're working under another provider. Yes, it's a little bit shorter if they can get you in right away, but for the most part, when you start getting credentialed under your name, it takes forever. Anywhere from 3 to 6, even 9, or even 12 months, depending on the insurance. Usually commercial insurance is a lot faster, Medicare is a lot faster, but when you're talking about Medicaid, or in California, Medi-Cal, it takes forever. And even though you want to be able to get credentialed, it can take anywhere up to a year. And people don't realize that. And some jobs, well, most jobs, if they're billing under you, you're not going to be able to start working until you're fully credentialed. And in some instances, you can work underneath a doctor. But for the most part, if you are going to be looking at credentialing yourself, it can take anywhere from 3 to 12 months. And I wish I would have known that, because it would have been a lot easier on me moving forward to get a job and anticipating, okay, I need to stay as an RN for a while until I can transition into that role. Because a lot of times people just quit their jobs and they don't necessarily know that there is that credentialing period, so you're not going to have a job in between them. Luckily, you can travel or do locums or whatever the case is, but for the most part, you're looking at credentialing being a good amount of time, so definitely be prepared for that. So the second thing that they didn't tell me during Nurse Practitioner School that I wish I would have known is the fact that it takes forever to get licensed and board certified. And obviously it varies from state to state, and there's a backlog depending on what state you're in, but for the most part it can take forever because you have to be sending so many different things to the board, and they don't necessarily tell you how long it can take. In California alone, I know some new grads that are taking up to a year to get licensed in their state, and additional time to be able to get board certified. Obviously, like I said, it varies, but a lot of the times they don't tell you that you should start getting all of your paperwork ready early, or even sending it in early just so you can get the ball rolling. But it does take some time. So sometimes, depending on the person, it can take anywhere from 3 months just to get licensed, or 3 to 6 months just to get licensed and board certified. Then you're talking additional 3 to 6 to 9 months, or even a year to get credentialed, and that's when you start your job. Like I said, don't let this deter you from doing things and being scared and panicking. Sometimes there's other instances where you can get licensed and board certified in 3 months, and you don't even go through the credentialing process because the facility is credentialed. So it just all depends, but it can take some time. So definitely think about it, that when you graduate, you have to wait for your license or your degree to post, and then you're sending it over to the Board of Registered Nurses, and depending on the board, they can take anywhere from 1 to 3 months just to be able to get you in the system. And if you're applying to a different state, then you have to wait for you to be licensed in that state, and then being able to be board certified. And sometimes there's a backlog going to ANCC. So there's such a huge backlog every once in a while, especially because of COVID. So it's definitely something you have to think about, that you may be sitting a while, and you may have to just continue to read and read just so kind of refresh everything, because it is going to be a long time from your clinical date until you actually start, because of all of these things set in place. So the third thing that they didn't tell me during Nurse Practitioner School that I wish I would have known is the difference between a 1099 job and a W-2 job. And obviously there's so many different things and intricate things part of the 1099 versus W-2 job, but I wish they would have just told us the basics of it. Whether it's, okay, W-2, you're going to potentially get benefits, they're paying the taxes for you, half of the taxes for you, you're paying majority of the taxes up front, versus 1099 where you're a contracted employee, or you're a contractor, and you have to pay for all of the taxes, but you do get all of the money up front. And things like that, like being able to save for taxes, being able to allocate certain things, and just being able to show us the difference between the two. Because a lot of the times people don't know, and I ask them, oh, are you familiar with 1099? They're like, what? Or are you familiar with W-2? And they're like, huh? And they don't necessarily know, and a lot of students don't necessarily know this. And I know that in other specialties, or actually like other medical professionals during school, they go over that. They have a specific course that go over finances, but in Nurse Practitioner School they don't. They have a lot of these other fluff classes, but they don't tell us what we need to know, because a lot of the times people think going, oh, I'm going to get this high amount of money as an independent contractor, and not necessarily knowing. And by the time taxes rolls around, you're like, what? Why am I owing so many taxes? And then same thing with W-2, and why they're removing so many different taxes, and they're thinking they're getting all these benefits, but in reality they're not. And they're just like, okay, where is everything? And you have to understand and learn these things, because when you start applying for these jobs, you're going to want to know, like, okay, 1099 is, you're not taxed anything. Yes, you're going to be at a higher rate, but you have to start saving some things, and obviously you could write off a lot more things, and I'll save that for another video, but that's something to think about. And then when it comes to W-2, yes, your hourly is going to be lower, but you're able to get benefits. You're able to get half of certain taxes paid by the employer, things like that, where you don't necessarily have to pay for the taxes, and you can have a lot of these things withheld. And you're able to do that because you are a W-2 employee. And there's so many different things involved with this, but it's definitely something to look up, or even ask your professors if they're familiar with it, because they'll definitely tell you about it, and just be going from there. But I wish they would have told us sooner, because that would have definitely helped me, especially as a new grad in my first position. So the fourth thing that I wish I would have known prior to graduating Nurse Practitioner School, and I wish they would have told us, is that it costs a lot of money to get your license, to get board certification, to be able to get your DEA, malpractice, and all of those associated costs. I wish I would have known this up front, because this would have prepared me. As a nurse, you only think, oh, I just need to get my license and that's it. But as a nurse practitioner, you have to get your license, you have to get your DEA, some people have to pay for their furnishing or whatever it's called For other states, I'm not sure exactly what it is. Some people have to pay for their malpractice, and that's significantly more compared to malpractice as a nurse. And a lot of times people don't get it as a nurse, but it's significantly more, and all the other associated fees with it. And I wish that I would have been told this, because it would have helped me, because I would have saved enough money. I would have allocated a lot of these things. And if I knew a lot of these things and the costs associated with it, I would have chosen a job that maybe paid for all of these things. I would have chosen something that was going to be able to allocate a certain amount so I can afford those things, instead of applying and not necessarily having a good savings account. And you're like, whoa, what are all of these costs? And sometimes it can get anywhere from, let's just say licensing is like $500, DEA, depending on the state, it's $888. Malpractice goes anywhere from $500 all the way to $1,500, and so many different other costs. And I wish I would have known this, and I wish they would have told us in school, because we would have been prepared. So my fifth and final thing that I wish they would have taught during Nurse Practitioner School, and I wish I would have known prior to graduating Nurse Practitioner School, is how to find and navigate finding a right job for you. And I know that's a mouthful, but at the same time, I wish I would have known, and I wish they would have told us how to find the right job. A lot of times you're just going into the job field not necessarily knowing what to expect. You don't know your worth. You don't know what to look for in terms of benefits, because some people are just ridiculous, asking the world. And some people are just wanting a job and they ask super low pay, and they end up setting the trend for everybody else that they can hire someone on for very little money. And I wish they would have just given us, okay, these are the average rates around you. These are the average benefits around you, because you don't want to go into a job opportunity doing amazing during the interview and asking for some outrageous requests. I know some people were asking for like 6 weeks of vacation, and that's pretty outrageous. But at the same time, we don't necessarily know that for providers, it's a lot lower. You're going to be getting 2, 3, 4 weeks max compared to other positions, unless you're in the government, federal job, your county job, or state facility or whatever. Then you get great benefits. But in your normal outpatient setting, you're looking at 2 to 3 weeks. That's average. Anywhere above that, like 5, 6, 7 weeks, you're not going to be able to get that, because a lot of these facilities or organizations, the smaller organizations, they can't afford to be able to pay someone that amount when they're not necessarily bringing in patients to be able to help that. So you have to think about those things and not necessarily ask for outrageous things, because as of someone that's hiring people, I'm just gonna be like, straight up no. Like, even though they did extremely well during the interview, what they're asking for is just way too much. And the same thing is, a lot of these new grads are coming to these positions asking for outrageous amounts, because they hear on the world or on the net that, oh, someone so-and-so is getting this amount of money, maybe I need to ask this amount of money. And they're just asking for outrageous things when they know that they can just hire somebody else for a different amount. And there's certain things that I wish I would have just known, like, give us averages. Give us like, oh, around this area, this is what you want to ask for. Versus, okay, good job, congratulations, go find a job. So it's something that it would have made life so much easier. Yes, they would have given us like a bottom line, like, okay, don't take anything lower than this, then great. Or make sure you get this amount of benefits. If you're getting health benefits, if you're a 1099 versus W2, this is what you want, and this is what you need to factor in, this is what you need to ask for, this is what you shouldn't ask for. And just giving us a blank layout of what to expect, instead of, oh, here's just a dollar amount, but at least give us all of the things to consider, just so we know. And you don't necessarily learn this in school. And all of these things, these 5 things that I wish we would have known. And it's not just my university. I've asked so many different students from other universities through social media what they're looking at, and none of the students, majority of the students, I'm not going to say none, but majority of the students didn't necessarily learn this in school and how to do research on their own, or they heard it from me. And I just wish that these schools would have known, but it's something that you definitely have to research prior to graduating, because these are things that are going to set you up for success moving forward, especially as a new grad NP. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I was able to shed light a little bit about a topic about Nurse Practitioner School, what to expect, and what I wish I would have known, just so you can make sure that you are taking the next step in the right direction, as opposed to being like, oh, overwhelmed and not necessarily doing well in certain things and just having to pretty much not necessarily give up on your dreams, but have to put on the back end, because if you have family and all of these costs, and if you're already living paycheck to paycheck and you're expecting to make more because you knew that you're going to be in the field, but now that you're paying for license, you're paying for DEA, malpractice, you're waiting for credentialing, and you're out of your job because you quit to go to nurse practitioner, you quit your job to go to nurse practitioner school because of clinicals and so many different factors. But I don't want you guys to fall behind, and I want you all to succeed. So definitely use these tips and just go out there and learn more about it, just so you know. And the more you're informed, the better off you are. As always, guys, have a wonderful day, and until next time, bye.